I wanted to ask what you're mentioning, sir, that the so-called Kashmir problem is largely restricted to a very small part. Why is media not willing to, why is it giving a different spin altogether, you think? Why they are showing that,
why is the media
not highlighting this very obvious fact that you have pointed out, A, and B, the fact that some of these leaders have no mass base as such, but they are very big media-created personalities, as you mentioned. Thank you.
Yeah, I suppose I'll share with you my perspective, but otherwise the media needs to answer why it is so. I think what happens with media across the world is that you tend to go to the area of conflict, and you tend to see it from the perspective of that particular trip that you make, for example. But I'm just asking you to try and just go back and look at the map of Kashmir. You know, I've only highlighted the regional geography issue. You know, just look at it. Jammu and Kashmir, the disputed region, 60% with India, 30% with Pakistan, 10% with Aksai Chin, so with China. So therefore, if you want a resolution regionally that this state is disputed, it needs to be given freedom, for example, we are saying that this entire 100% needs to be solved. Because if you solve, let's say, only the 60%, it won't be accepted to a sizable number of people who say, what about Aksai Chin, what about Jammu and Kashmir on the other side? If you solve only the Kashmir Valley, a lot of people are going to say, what about Ladakh? It's very much part of Jammu and Kashmir as it was acceded. What about Jammu? What about the large number of Hindus in Jammu, large number of Buddhists in Ladakh? Are they going to agree to this? So that's why I said that, you know, really look at this as a solution to a geographical problem. We are not Germany or Korea. It's not going to happen. It's not there. There is no solution. Now, why does the media do it? Is because in many ways the media is extremely myopic, because when you go to Kashmir, and all of us, when we say Kashmir problem, we see the shots which we see in the Kashmir Valley. The Kashmir Valley is 70 kilometers by about 40 kilometers. That's it. It's just one valley. That's not Jammu and Kashmir. So it's very easy to, you know, there is stone pelting, you go down there and the whole world sees it as a Jammu and Kashmir problem. Firstly, it's not Jammu and Kashmir. It's just the valley. And yes, that 60% of Jammu and Kashmir has 20 to 30% of the population lives in the valley. That's true. But it's a very small geography. And I mean, historically, we have to accept that some problems are not solvable. I'm just making that statement. It is not a solvable problem. So I'm sure there'll be enough difference of opinion with that position, but I'm just giving you a perspective that having lived there, walked and talked to thousands of people, you know, I'm telling you, for example, across the left region of Kashmir Valley is a mountain range called the Shamshabari. Across the Shamshabari, which is Muzaffarabad and POK, there's a huge area which is occupied by Punjabi Muslims who speak Punjabi, not Kashmiri. Tangdhar and, you know, the Kanzalwan, Tangdhar, those entire areas. Even Uri, they have nothing to do with the Kashmiri in the valley. It's a different sort of a culture, ethnicity, etc. It's a different area. So the media doesn't highlight it because maybe they don't know enough, and then it makes a lot of sense to highlight this as a huge big problem, etc. But yes, there is a trust deficit among the leadership in the valley, which Jerry mentioned.
Yeah. So I think I would kind of add to that what Colonel Gopal Karunakaran said, is that the problems are not solvable, but I would say they're not solvable probably till the vested interests are at work. Remove the vested interests and probably there could be some solutions.
And I'd like to just add that I just mentioned it from a geographic perspective. From a human perspective, everything is solvable. Absolutely. There are enough areas that you can work with. But to go back 50 years in history and say we'll get back to that region, it's not a dispute over region is what I'm saying. But at the human level, I mean, I've seen, sir, you mentioned when in the 80s, we've seen scores of Hindu-Muslim villagers living together in absolute harmony and peace. I mean, the sort of divide that we perceive that all the Kashmiri Hindus had to go away because they were ill-treated. That's not true. People were scared. A few killings happened. Obviously, a whole community will start thinking of their lives and they will go away. But there was a huge amount of Hindu-Muslim amity, fraternity, Kashmiriyat as a culture, which was shared by both the communities, and we saw it very closely. It was a great example to the rest of India.
Thank you, sir. You had something to say, Mr. Mathur?
No, I just wanted to sort of reiterate the fact, and where there is a connectivity with the previous panel, that tourism brings about a lot of goodwill and integration. And
Amarnath Yatra itself.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
And I think it's incumbent upon us to generate that goodwill by bringing student trips from the valley, exposing them to the larger country to which they belong, and they have no idea, the majority of the children there, what part of the world that they are in. So, of course, television has now created a lot of change in the lifestyle, but I'm talking about 87, 88, when all the trouble started. So I think this integration bit has great amount to do with connectivity and travel of people from there, and accessibility to them for opportunities in the rest of the country.
Thank you, Mr. Mathur. Thank you, Colonel Gopal Karunakaran. So we shall conclude with that. We shall have a small ceremony where we shall be giving away the Karmavir Chakras to all the torchbearers of the Karma Yuga movement. The Karma Yuga movement is about creating the right every wrong generation, where people come up, stand up and speak out against wrongs and do their bit in their time and space to do something for society. Thank you very much.